Welcome all to the first video of the series dedicated to literary criticism. Today we are focused on Freudian psychoanalysis. This approach believes that the psychological journey, the psychological history of man begins in the early childhood experiences. It is the early childhood experiences that shape, define, influence and determine the adolescent behaviors. Now, for this approach, man's mind is divided into conscious and the unconscious. Conscious is the part of the mind we are aware of, present perceptions, thoughts and memories. The mind that we know is the conscious mind, and the unconscious mind is the mind we are unaware of. This mind is the reservoir of unfulfilled guilty desires, painful experiences and emotions, fear and unresolved conflicts. We never want to encounter the contents of this unconscious, as these feelings from the unconscious have the potentiality to overwhelm us and we are unable to handle it. So this unconscious remains hidden, concealed. This unconscious is not just the passive reservoir of data, rather it is the very active dynamic entity that engages us to the deepest level. For example, a man in his childhood had an alcoholic mother and was never taken care of. He lacked the motherly love in his childhood. Now, in his adulthood, this man is liable to select alcoholic and aloof mate, and once he gets the attention, the interest ceases there. His infatuation ends there. What is happening here is, while selecting the alcoholic mate, this man is reenacting his relationship with his mother. He is trying to compensate the loss of love that he experienced in his early childhood. So here we see the present behavior. The behaviors in the adulthood is determined by this unconscious, determined by the early experience that this man had with his mother, stored in the unconscious. Now this unconscious remains concealed. As we mentioned, this contains the feelings very powerful, the feelings that we cannot handle. So to protect us from the shock, save us from being overwhelmed from these messages of the unconscious, another psychological mechanism works that Freud terms as defense. Now this defense is the process through which the contents of the unconscious, the hidden contents, are concealed, are kept hidden. The repressed is repressed by this process called defense. Defense is the hurdle, is the barrier that do not permit the contents of the unconscious into the conscious. Some of the defenses are selective perception. This is about hearing and seeing only what we feel we can handle. We only encounter the things favorable. Next is selective memory. This is about either modifying or forgetting the painful memory completely. Next is denial. This is about believing that the painful memory does not really exist. This is about denying the existence, occurrence of the event that hurts us. Next comes the avoidance, where we try to avoid the unfavorable. We stay away from the people and events which are supposed to make us anxious, which are supposed to hurt us. Another is displacement. This is about substituting the malevolent, malignant with the benevolent, benign. Here we substitute the person or event that is the cause of fear with the less harmful one, with the favorable one. After this, another is the projection. This is about projecting the guilty desires, fears, and problems of the self to someone or something else. For example, suppose if I possess the incestuous desire to have sex with my aunt, and now if I see a widow aunt living with her nephew, I accuse them of the incest. Though these people are living in accordance to the social conventions, according to the moral standards of the society, I am sure to see something wrong in their relationship. What I am doing here is to escape from this guilt, to cushion the effect of this guilt. I am projecting my guilty want onto someone else while accusing them of the incest. This hidden desire, want of mine is being projected onto this nephew. So this is how projection works. Projecting the issues of the self onto someone or something else. Regression is also one of the defense, which is about the temporary return to the formal state. Here the former state is not just imagined, rather relived. Now in normal condition, in ordinary circumstances, this defense mechanism functions to stop the thoughts of the unconscious getting into the conscious. Now, whenever this defense mechanism fails or breaks temporarily, we experience anxiety. This anxiety reveals the core issues, the facts, issues which have shaped our psychological being. These are the issues, these are the feelings that determine our certain behavior. There are various different core issues. Few of them are fear of intimacy. Here the person have overpowering feeling that emotional closeness will surely hurt him or her, and because of this fear of being hurt emotionally, the person remains at emotional distance at all times. This person is emotionally aloof from his near and dear ones. Next is the fear of abandonment. Now this fear of abandonment has two modes. modes: emotional abandonment and physical abandonment. Physical abandonment is the belief that the close and near person or the mate is going to desert us, and the fear of emotional abandonment includes the fear that the other people near me do not really care me. After this is the fear of betrayal, where the person have a nagging feeling that the loved ones, our closest people, cannot be trusted. After this comes the low self-esteem. This is the belief that we are less worthy than the other people. The person with this core issue believes that I deserve to be punished by life in some way. Next core issue is the Oedipal fixation, which is about the dysfunctional bond with the parent of the opposite sex. Oedipal complex is about the bond between mother and the son, and the Electra complex is about the bond between daughter and the father. The core issues are determined by the early childhood experiences. This core issue may vary from individual to individual. Under normal condition, these core issues are hidden. The content of the unconscious is concealed and is unable to get into the conscious. Now the question arises, if so, how can we know about the operations of the unconscious? For Freud, there are two ways to know about the operations of the unconscious. The first way is to look for the patterns in the behaviors of a person added by the knowledge of his or her childhood. If the clues are analyzed, we can know the functioning of the unconscious. As in the earlier example, we on observing the pattern in the behavior of the man selecting alcoholic mate, and with the understanding of his early childhood experiences, reached to his core issue that was making him select the alcoholic partner. And the second way is through the dream. During the sleep, unconscious is free to express itself, and it does so through the dream. Dream is the outlet for the repressed. Dream is the disguised fulfillment of the unfulfilled desires and wishes. But this dream is not the straightforward representation of the unconscious. The data in the unconscious are not represented in its actual form. Content of the unconscious is distorted and presented in the dream. There is the censorship in the dream, and this censorship distorts the image from the unconscious and brings it into the conscious. This censorship is there to protect us from the overwhelming feelings, from the fearful insights of the unconscious. And this protection is in the form of dream work. To understand the dream work, we need to understand latent dream and the manifest dream. Latent dream is the actual dream. This is the underlying meaning meaning of the dream. This is the actual message expressed by the dream. But we don't remember this dream. And the manifest dream is the dream that we remember. It is the dream that we report. The latent dream is transformed, changed into manifest dream by the process of dream work. Dream work disguises the content, distorts the content, changes the content, and presents it in the manifest dream. Dream work through the processes like condensation, displacement, representation in plastic form, changes the latent content into manifest content. The content of the latent dream is altered so that we don't recognize it. The first achievement of dream work is condensation. In condensation, we have three different processes. First is about merging, fusing, combining, superimposing various different numerous ideas into single unity, about making the single unit from different numerous units. That is, varying thoughts are fused into single unity in the manifest dream. It is like creating a portrait with various different numerous small individual portraits. This process creates a single new transitory concept from numerous, which has some common element as the nucleus. The composite figure of this kind may look like A, but may be dressed like B, may do something that we remember C doing, and at the same time we recognize this figure as a D. After this, during condensation, tiny fragments from the latent dream only pass into the manifest dream. Now, latent dream have the bigger whole event, but only a very small glimpse, a minute glimpse, a flash of this event penetrates into the manifest dream. During condensation, we also see the total omission of certain latent content. When the dream work is taking a fragment from the latent content, it is leaving the other parts of the latent content. So this is how it takes the tiny fragment and leaves the other fragment. So here taking and omission happens together. After this, the second achievement of dream work is displacement. Here, the latent element is not represented by the part of itself, rather something remote is used to represent that, or it is represented by illusion. Not only that, but also during displacement, the physical essence shifts from important to unimportant one, to another something which is not much significant. For example, if the tiger is in the latent dream, in the manifest dream it may turn into an eagle. So this is how displacement happens. The dream appears differently centered and strange. And the third achievement of dream work is about the translation of abstract ideas into the visual imagery. Abstract ideas and thoughts are presented as concrete visual imagery in the manifest dream, like the idea of possessing something can be represented visually by the person sitting upon the object he possesses. This is how dream translates the abstract ideas, thoughts, memories into visual imagery. Here, not all the ideas are translated into concrete form, into visual imageries. Some things are lost in translation. So this is how dream work shortens down the content in the manifest dream. The latent dream is larger, but when it comes down to the manifest dream, it is very less and is completely different strains than that of the latent dream. So this is how larger latent dream is shortened down in the manifest dream. These are the processes through which dream distorts the message from the unconscious. The job of dream interpretation is to undo the dream work. Dream interpretation is about arriving to the latent content from the manifest content. The symbols in the manifest contents are decoded to get into the latent content. To do so, the understanding of dream symbols remain vital. Now, this is not a simple job, as symbols vary from individual to individual and from culture to culture. But still, according to Freud, certain dreams tend to apply in most situations. Like if I have a dream about a child, this dream is revealing my feelings toward myself. Not only that, but also this dream reveals something about the child that is within me, perhaps wounded. This may be something from the early development. The unquenched thirst from the childhood may be revealed by the dream. So on, something that stands upright and goes off, like tower, gun, sword, stick, function as a male phallic symbol, and images standing up for womb, like cave, pond, room, enclosures of any type, containers function as female imagery. Regardless of how frightening our dreams are, they are the safe outlets for the unresolved conflicts, unfulfilled guilty desires, painful emotions and experiences. And this is the healthy process of the psyche. If the nightmare starts while walking, this is the breakdown of defense. If we encounter the feelings that we don't want to encounter, if our unconscious is presented to us without the disguise, if the truth hidden by repressed fails to remain repressed and surfaces out in the conscious without the disguise, and that I am unable to handle, then I am in crisis. It is trauma for Freudian psychoanalysis.